I'm Linda Faircloth, and I'm the general manager of Pfisterer Dental Lab, and I've worked for the company since 1977. And I was asked to make a presentation at the President's meeting about 4 years ago on the laboratory and the original owners, and to explain any infamous characters or colorful characters that had ever been affiliated with the company. And through my search and talking to all of the previous owners, people that had worked for the company, managers, anybody that I could get a lead from, I found out that Pfisterer was founded in 1906 by Louis Pfisterer. Otterer Dental Lab was founded in 1916 by John Otterer. And through this, I called Mr. John Otterer to ask him a few questions. And in the conversation, he had told me that one of the stories that I had heard from another person, that Lee Harvey Oswald had worked for the company, and I started asking him questions about it because I immediately labeled him as the person that was going to be my colorful character. And I had heard through Mr. Arthur Stump that Lee Harvey Oswald had worked for Pfisterer, and he had started as a waxer and didn't do very well at that, so they decided to give him another task. And I didn't know what the task was, but Mr. Otterer clarified that task. He said that back then they decided to get together, since Louis Pfisterer and John Otterer were kind of friends, even though they were competitors, that they went in together and hired this young man to deliver cases across the river for them, and they was going to pay 50 cents a case. And the person that got the job was Lee Harvey Oswald, because he had a motorcycle. And for 2 weeks, the cases were taken from the laboratory, and the owners assumed that they were delivered, but then Lee Harvey Oswald just kind of skipped on them. And then they started getting calls from the doctor saying, "Where's the case? Where's my case?" Said, "It was delivered to you a couple of weeks ago." And when they really found out where the cases were, they were on the ferry boat, dumped behind some boxes, and obviously they never did get delivered. So when we put all of this down for the company, we felt we had to get more accurate dates, and these people that I talked to, Mr. Johnny Lopez, Mr. George Bischoff, Arthur Stump, and John Otterer, felt that the time of hire was somewhere in 1957 and 1958, and that he had worked for the company somewhere maybe 6 months or so. They're really not clear or sure about the length of time, but everyone was pretty positive that he worked there in 1957. And every time I asked a question, everybody would go back and say, "Well, the one you really need to talk to is Lionel Slater, because he worked with him." I talked to Lionel Slater. Lionel Slater said, "The one you really need to talk to is Palmer McBride." And I also talked with Palmer McBride after speaking with John Armstrong. And everybody still goes back and says, well, the time that he worked at Pfisterer was in the 57, 58 era. So, you know, that's the basis of the information that I have on it. And after getting all of this together, I wrote my little report, and I presented it at a president's meeting in Charleston, South Carolina, and got a lot of people getting more interested in the president's assassination through realizing that Lee Harvey Oswald had worked for Pfisterer on Dolphin Street during that time period. And the lab moved at the present location in 1974, and consequently we lost a lot of records from the move, and then we've had a few floods that we've lost some records, but we've gone back and tried to find out everything that we could and couldn't come up with actual documents. But there's a lot of good people that really truly believe that the time of his employment was in 1957 and 1958, and that he was a very interesting character.
Did you talk to one or more or any of the owners of Pfister's about the FBI visiting Pfister's after the assassination?
Yes, I did. I talked to Mr. Johnny Lopez, and he remembered quite vividly what had happened. He said that after the assassination had occurred, that immediately the FBI came in and talked to each one of the owners as well as the department heads. They took all the employment records and advised them not to be discussing the case to anyone. And it was extremely important that they kind of keep this under wraps. And at that point, they took all of the records that the company had in terms of employment records. And this was the very next working day after the assassination. So I'm assuming that would be Monday, right?
Yes, it would be Monday. It would be the first working day. The president was killed on Friday.